I definitely think that the school system needs an overhaul, but I definitely don't think we should be forcing kids to stay in school. It sounds good
Like overhaul
in
the
theory.
curriculum?
Overhaul the whole system.
Everything that you learn is everything.
No, just overhauling the whole system. Like, I definitely think, I don't know if we should be separating kids at school. Like, the elitist kids, like just separating them at school or whatever the case is. But I definitely
different classrooms.
But I definitely think that you're always going to have those top performers.
In anything you do.
Those intermediate ones and those ones at the bottom. I'm sure it would be helpful for them to maybe intermingle, just because that might motivate the other ones to want to perform more.
And that's how life is.
Yeah.
You got to mix in with, because at work, you're not just going to be working with elitists. You're going to have some overachievers. You're going to have some slackers.
Mm-hmm. And if you all have the same degree, then it doesn't matter.
You can't just separate the slackers and the elitists at work.
But I definitely do think there should be something in place. I don't know what it looks like, to where, kids are able to at least learn because like I have, 11th graders doing 11th grade work because they've been passed along. But like, truthfully, they're not really doing 11th grade. I mean, they're in the 11th grade classes, but they're not performing at that standard. They're not meeting those standards.
I feel like none of my students are
meeting the standards. So that's what I'm saying.
Class.
There definitely should be some type of divide. I don't know what that looks like, but I just think if by 11th grade, 10th, 11th grade, by high school, if the kid has barely gotten by high school, then we need to figure. I think elementary and middle school should be more like mandatory if I had to like choose. But by high school, you 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You're like 15, 16, 17, 15 years old. By then, if you have made it to high school with all D's, with D's and F's, D's and C's, whatever, you just got passed by. Because, kids aren't really repeating grades and stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nobody does that. Yeah.
You don't hear that no more.
You don't. Nobody does that.
I got kept back. Is that because No Child Left Behind?
I guess. I think it was a scare tactic, too, back in the day. But, like, literally by high school, I feel like that's when we need to figure out maybe the kid studies it, because you can stay at home by yourself. So maybe the kid finishes their studies at home doing virtual work. And it has a teacher, a virtual teacher available to assist and help. Maybe they go with the cream of the crop kids and have a fast track to college, or maybe they do. I feel like definitely, I think it gets rough I think everybody's kind of pretty much, performing at the same level in elementary, middle school, but by high school, because, I think it starts getting rocky around middle school. By high school, I definitely think there should be some kind of clearly defined path. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So those are my thoughts.
So that just brings me back to, I just feel like it's the students' effort that they put in, and whatever motivates their effort or kills their effort. I don't know what that is, but it's definitely the student's effort, because you can have a student just not do anything. Or, like, here's what all right, so when you ask high school students to write a paragraph, they can't do it. They can't put thoughts together on paper. They can't write 5 sentences. They struggle. It'll be like the saddest piece of writing I've ever read.
From high schoolers. That's what I'm saying. By the time you get to high school.
You have those elitists, the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
There'll probably be like 5 of them out of 30 in the class who actually write a paragraph and it's actually legible and makes sense and got your T's and I's dotted and all that. But other ones, they just write 2 sentences and, that's all I'm going to get. But then later on, it could just be what that kid is feeling for the day, because, another day, that same kid who can't write 2 sentences, hey, can I do all of my work? And they'll sit there and try to do all of their work. Everything, all of it.
Here's a fact.
All at once.
One fact that I recently learned is that kids who have experienced trauma, whatever that might be. Trauma, some people think of like some type of abuse, but trauma can be a divorce or many different things. Trauma is really how the person responds to that event. That's really how we decide if it's trauma, because 2 kids can experience the same thing. One can kind of go on and become a doctor, mm-hmm. and one may struggle a lot with their mental health or something. That's really how we define trauma. But a lot of times kids who have been traumatized, they have a difficult time accessing the learning part of their brain. So we all know the brain is made up of a bunch of stuff. There are different parts and, all sorts of different things, but they have a hard time accessing that learning part. So it's not like they can't learn, it's not like they have anything that really prevents them, any cognitive or intellectual disabilities that prevents them from learning, but they can't actually access that part of the brain. And so instead, they are probably running around in school. They're jumping off desks, or my kids do anyway, running across the desk, jumping on the teacher's desks, knocking stuff all over, and unengaged, not attentive. And so those kids are just having a problem accessing that part, because you really have to be pretty calm and centered to sit through any type of, I think, to sit through any kind of to sit through any kind of instruction or lesson or whatever the case is. So anyway, just to your point that, and then there are kids who have been traumatized who just kind of fall through the cracks and they don't receive any support because maybe they don't demonstrate externalized behaviors, and they're more internalized. So anyway, long story short is that I definitely think the school system is struggling. And I mean,
I was going to say another thing with, we were talking about administrators. Mm-hmm. You got these kids running around, jumping on the desk, jumping on the teacher's desk, and you're still expected to learn and tell them to sit down and
teach. You mean?
And I mean, yeah, you're still expected to teach. You're still expected to, control the classroom. And if an administrator walks by and the kids are on the desk and everything, you're in trouble.
Yeah. That's a big issue. You
could tell a kid to sit down 20 times, but
I was gonna say that's a big difference between giving a kid a small directive or a reminder, hey, quiet in the hallway, or hey, back in line, or hey, keep your voices down, or use your inside voice, than literally having to potentially physically intervene, or having, because that's doing way too. I mean, who even does? I mean, I have kids who do that, but jumping on a teacher's desk and knocking stuff up, that's next level.
I can see that.
So most teachers aren't really trained. And what I've learned,
no, they actually did stand in desks and all that.
Yeah, what I've learned, I have high schoolers who stand on desks and stuff. It's very common. What I've learned is that a lot of teachers, even as adults, they have the ability to kind of use different interventions with their own children, but when it comes to other kids, because sometimes I'll be listening to a teacher and I'm giving them a suggestion, and I'm like, well, have you tried this? And they're like, oh no, I haven't tried that. And I'm like, this is literally a basic tool that I think any adult should have when it comes to trying to redirect a child's behavior. So sometimes I think the barrier is teachers don't want to, do what they might want to do, not saying anything extreme, hit a kid or anything, but they might not want to do what they
need to do,
I guess, because they don't want to deal with parents and
pushback
and all that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of just walk a fine line and they tiptoe around.
Yeah, you definitely have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say something. I forgot what I was about to say.
I think that's another issue with parents,
teachers.
I was
about to say, I don't really so back to the whole you got to pick your battles kind of thing. If nobody's getting hurt or anything, or if nobody's distracting anybody, I'll let it slide. So say if you had a student sitting on the desk, sitting on the table part of the desk, that was fine with me. That was cool. But then the administrator came in and got on to me about getting on to them. So I don't know. That's another reason teachers are leaving.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do it in front of the kids, or they did?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's...
Yeah.
Wait, they got on to you?
Well, I mean, they didn't get on to me. Well, it wasn't really get on, but... so in my world, if you say anything to me,
getting on
to me. All right, now don't let the kids do whatever they wanted. That's getting on to me.
Okay.
I mean,
kind of undermining.
He was just sitting on the desk. He wasn't bothering anybody.
Uh-huh.
He was actually listening. He just wanted to be comfortable sitting on the desk.
Uh-huh.
So I let him sit on the desk, and I was still teaching. Everybody was paying attention, and everything was cool. Don't let that kid sit on the desk. That could be a hazard. Now, what if this kid would have fell and broke his neck? And
Sitting on the desk?
Sitting on
Okay,
the
that's
desk.
dramatic. That must be an old person.
Yes.
They must have been 50 plus.
They are.
No shade if you're 50 plus. The 50 plus year olds tend to be a little bit more,
A little bit more
on
tight.
edge, yeah, than us millennials. Anywho, I think that's also another issue is that teachers are trying to pick their battles and not call in admin for every little thing or whatever. But
The only reason I call for admin is if I have a fight. If I had to call 2 times this past year. One, well, they didn't fight either time, but they were about to fight. So I just went ahead and hit the button.
So, moral of the story is that we are in agreement that the school needs an overhaul,
Yeah, they definitely need something.
or the kids' behaviors and those raising them need an overhaul.
Those raising them need an overhaul.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I guess.
Need a new batch of parents.
I guess.
This generation of parents ain't parenting.
Nope, not like they did back in the day. Anywho, all right. So, want to end out this thing?
Yeah. So yeah, the education system is failing. 82% of schools in the United States are failing. 30% of 30% of high school students aren't graduating. Then you had a couple facts. But yeah, that's a couple facts. The podcast. That's this week's episode. New episodes every Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. A couple facts.
And this is going to be the last video, the third video. If you made it this far, thanks. But when you're starting out on YouTube, especially, you cannot upload videos longer than 15 minutes, which we didn't know when we started our new channel. So that's why these videos are being broken up. So go check out parts 1 and 2, and I think even 3 on this topic. And definitely don't be afraid to comment down below and let us know what you think. And if you're on Anchor or Spotify or whatever, we welcome feedback on there as well.
And definitely subscribe on YouTube if I haven't said that already, which I know I just said.
You probably said
it again. But yeah, if you listen on Spotify, Anchor, just go ahead and subscribe on YouTube so we can have all these, the whole broadcast in one stream. And you don't have to go to video 1, video 2, video 3, video 4. You can just watch it all the way through. So please subscribe and tell everybody you know to subscribe.
Bye, guys.
Bye.